Damian Conforti back with another edition of Hospitality Hits. I'm here with Wade Moises of Vita Italian Specialties in Sparta, New Jersey, and Woodport Road. Wade, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming by.
Vita, here in Sparta, what was the inspiration for Vita and then to be here in Sparta, New Jersey?
It was almost like the inspiration to be in Sparta was almost first. My wife and I, Zan, she grew up here in Sparta. Her parents still live here. One of the reasons we came out here, I've been coming out here with her for like 10, 12 years and really loved, I loved coming out here to visit, loved like the lake life. I loved like the setting, the trees, the greenery. We were living in New York City, living in Brooklyn, working in Manhattan. And, we were just kind of over that life. And part of it was like, we had a son, when he turned 2, our amazing apartment in Brooklyn became so tiny. It went from being so perfect to like micro-sized as soon as he started to move. And so we were like, we looked around there and we were kind of like, man, this is just not really going to work for us here. We want to raise him in a different place and do, in the woods basically. So we decided we were going to make the move. And then we were just trying to figure out what to do here. And, I've always loved Italian delis. When I grew up, that's what kind of got me into Italian food in the first place, was like, my Italian grandmother, whenever we had a holiday, an occasion, we would go to the Italian deli, we'd get all the cold cuts, we'd get all the salads, we'd get the focaccia. And, that was just like deeply ingrained in me. And, 35 years later, 50 years later, 40 years later, I started cooking Italian food, became a chef, and that Italian food has always been my focus. And so kind of going back to like where I had learned about Italian food first is where we ended up. Part of it was because, in Sparta, there's like, 7 pizza places. There's a lot of, there was a couple of other Italian restaurants. A couple of them have gone by the wayside, I believe, at this time. But, we thought this kind of concept might be something that would fit here.
This is unique to Sparta, and you say your deli, Italian deli, but not your average deli. Why don't you take us through a little bit about what you have here, what you offer, what makes Vita different, and the inspiration for the specialties that you have?
Well, coming from like an Italian restaurant background, we kind of like do the food, I guess, closer to like restaurant style. So there's a lot less packaged stuff and a lot more things that are kind of done to order, a lot more things that are kind of done like a little bit more creatively and less out of the can, so to speak, than like regular Italian places. So all the antipasti, very Italian inspired, mostly from the South. That's where most of my experience in Italy has been, studying the food of Sicily, Calabria, Puglia, Campania, of course. The Napolitana, as everybody's is probably the most familiar with. It's kind of the food that has become Italian-American food, or like parts of it is how Italian-American food came about. But so mostly in that region, but kind of like more unique things that are like less off the shelf, so to speak.
And then I noticed you do different specialties based on maybe what the theme is that week, or some weeks you might have like Pizza Fridays.
Yep.
So,
and some of those things were like, I've always been a massive pizza eater. I love pizza. It's like my favorite thing on earth. I've always loved making it. And we really were like trying to not do a pizza place when we came here, just because there are so many already. But once we were up and running, they're all, no offense to them, but they're kind of the same, most of them. So we really wanted to just do like our style. It's like a slow fermented dough. We ferment the dough for 5 days. It's, quality toppings, and it's very simple. We keep it very simple. Our house-made mozzarella, of course. But I think we do a great job. It's been really well received doing the pizza on Fridays. We might expand to other days soon. We get a lot of calls during the week for it. We'll see how that goes. But it's a whole nother facet of the operation. The hardest thing about this is the variety, maintaining quality across like a massive variety of foods, panini, sandwiches, all the focaccia, all the salumi. We do pasta. We do all the vegetables, antipasti in the case. Doing the desserts, it's very challenging. It's a lot of work.
I think I've seen in some of your posts, you get calls from regular customers or even new customers asking for specific items.
Yes, that's hard. And it's tough. We hate to say no, and we always think, oh man, it may be cool to have that. But also a lot of some of those things are so esoteric and off the beaten path that it's really hard to have all of it, and some of it, we make efforts. If it's something that we think that a broader audience would like, we will bring something in and start making something for people. The tiramisu, like I don't like tiramisu. I'm not really a fan of it. I kind of recreated it for us to something that I like. And it was kind of more unique than like the same thing you get everywhere. So we have our chocolate espresso tiramisu cake made with a chocolate espresso cake, typical tiramisu filling, soaked with tons of espresso syrup. It's delicious. But so that was something that was never really in the plan. People ask for it constantly. All right, we'll do it. Vodka sauce. I never had vodka sauce on my radar. And the craziest thing is the chicken cutlets, is that we sell somewhere in the neighborhood of like 120 on the slowest week of the year to 180 pounds of chicken cutlets every week. And that's something that when we started, I had wasn't even on my radar really. It's like I'd seen it at other delis. I'd seen it like, around, but it really wasn't something that I had in my mind, mostly because it's not something you find it's not so ubiquitous in Italy. And so, and my mindset was always like going there and bringing that here, as opposed to like it's kind of like typical, like a style of Italian American style. So that's something that once we started doing it, people loved it. We sold like the first like 20 pounds in like 4 minutes. We're like, okay, so this is like something like people really want. So we started doing that in volume, and we do it kind of in a unique way as well. We brine the chicken in mozzarella way. So after we make the mozzarella, that salty, like lactose and lactase liquid, we soak the chicken in that overnight and then, do the breading. So it keeps it very juicy, kind of rich. It's pretty, it comes out, I think it's pretty good.
So bringing the taste of Southern Italy and Sicily to Sparta, New Jersey.
Exactly.
I imagine there were some unique challenges, maybe in the setup or since then. How long have you been here?
So we've been here for 5.5 years.
So one thing we like to do is educate our viewers. We are a law firm, and what challenges they might face in the hospitality industry, whether it be opening a deli, new restaurant, or throughout the process. What can you tell us about your experience?
The process is definitely challenging. I'm pretty fortunate. I've been involved in opening probably 11 places. Most of the restaurants that I've worked at were openings. And if they weren't, I also helped friends open places. So I had a lot of perspective on like how things are done. From the kitchen standpoint, not really so much as the overall owner standpoint. I did that once with a partner in Arizona. It was very challenging there, but probably more challenging here. Mostly because, coming to a new town that I'm not established in at all and doing an opening, like learning the ins and outs of the township, getting the paperwork set up, the business back end. We were actually lucky. We had a family friend who was also an attorney who helped us out a lot with getting the LLC set up, helping us set up our S Corp and things like that. And then the lease, we had a separate attorney, unfortunately, do the lease with us, and that was super challenging. That attorney was not very present. A piece of advice from my previous partner was that, to make sure that as you're going through the process, that your attorney and your accountants are in lockstep, especially when it comes to the lease, and that did not happen. But we were lucky. Our landlord has been amazing. And so we were pretty fortunate. We didn't have to have that much of a battle with the lease. That was coming from a New York City perspective where it's much more challenging.
Right.
But yeah, there's so much paperwork involved in the beginning. It's like having somebody that has that like perspective of what to do next. Cause that's the hardest part, is figuring out the steps for all the processes, is getting your paperwork set up, going through the township paperwork to get your approvals from the zoning board and all that kind of stuff.
So having that team in place that's experienced, is able to work together as a team, whether it be your accountant, your attorney, your realtor.
Yep.
A lot of ramp up, and you could wind up in a situation where you're spending a lot of time on a lease and a lot of money on a lease, and maybe building out before you're even open, and you see dollar number one coming in.
Yes, exactly.
Where can our viewers go to see you? I know you're present on social media. I know you do a lot of marketing throughout the town. What would you like to tell them about where to check out La Vita and how to get here?
Obviously we're right here in Sparta, and, on our Instagram is where we do most of our social media and outreach. We started messing around with TikTok a little bit, but it's not really it's too much. It's too much for me to deal with. But basically, we put all of our specials on our website. We also put them up on Instagram. We always try to keep that kind of rolling. And then, of course, coming into the shop is really the best way to experience La Vita, seeing everything. You eat with your eyes. And so that's like the best way. And so we're right next to the bowling alley, 83 Woodport Road. That's pretty much it.
Wade, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much.
This was great. Appreciate it.